The UFC just signed a massive new deal with CBS Sports, Paramount Plus. And guys, that means no more pay-per-views, guys. Let's go ahead and celebrate this one, man. Starting January 1st, the UFC is doing away with the pay-per-view method. We don't have to pay 80 bucks or, perfectly legally stream these UFC events and worry about the main event buffering because we got Paramount Plus or CBS on local TV, okay, guys? That's like 12, 13 bucks a month. That's much better than 80 bucks a month for a pay-per-view event, guys. This is a great move from the UFC. As you can see, Dana White making big money moves. Their last contract with ESPN was worth what? 500 million a year, something like that. Now they're getting 1.1 billion dollars per year in this new contract, man. But this brings a lot of questions. How is fighter pay going to be differently, guys? I think the fighters will actually get paid more. First of all, because the UFC is going to be making more money. Now I know they won't get pay-per-view points, but there's got to be some sort of deal with ad revenue, with streaming on TV, with the streaming service like Paramount. There's going to be something, okay? I think Dana's going to take care of the fighters. Everybody thinks that he pays the fighters little to nothing. Look, the rich are going to get richer. That's all I'm going to say. But guys, this is massive. This is actually massive because not only will it benefit us fans, at least in America, I don't know how it affects the other countries. Y'all let me know in the comments. But this gives the UFC even more exposure. Yes, guys, I know the UFC is already kind of mainstream, especially streaming on ESPN Plus and ESPN. But with the addition of CBS, guys, Dana White has said about four events a year are going to be streaming on CBS on the TV station. So it'll be free for the world. And guys, CBS is a global platform. That's where you see stuff like soccer being streamed. You see American football being streamed there. That's going to honestly bring in a lot of new fans. But I'm honestly still in so much shock that Dana White listened to the fans, guys. Like, what? Are we living in a fantasy land right now? I feel like we are because the UFC is doing away with pay-per-views, which is great. We've been calling for this for forever. And it looks like the sport is going to continue to grow. So that's good for me, man. That's good for all of us, all right? But what is going to kick off this Paramount exclusive event, this new deal? UFC 324 is going to be the first event for Paramount Plus. So who is going to headline? Because honestly, I feel like the UFC is going to go out of their way to stack this card or at least make it a banger headliner, put one of their top stars on the card as kind of an opening to Paramount Plus and CBS Sports because they're going to want to make an impact. They're going to make it a big deal for the first card on Paramount. So they're going to want to make a big impact. They're going to want to draw as many viewers in as possible. So who do you headline this event? As you can see from the picture, we got Conor McGregor in the middle. Ilya Topuria is a good option. Islam Makhachev, Hamza Chimaev. These are the biggest stars in the sport right now. John Jones, who retired, but he's back in the testing pool. I'm going to tell you, before we get into it, yes, this may or may not have been another excuse to play matchmaker because that's my favorite thing to do. But I'm going to tell you who I think is going to headline, and I'm going to not build a whole entire card, but I'm going to give you a banger main event and a banger co-main event to kick off this glorious new UFC deal. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. It's not going to be Hamza Chimaev. He's going to be fighting this weekend. It potentially could be Hamza, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't expect Hamza to be, just a super active champion because he hasn't been that. But August, September, October, November, December, 4 or 5 month turnaround for Hamza Chimaev is not out of the question. So that's a possibility, but I don't think that's going to happen. Islam Makhachev going to be fighting in November, not officially confirmed, but basically confirmed. He'll be fighting at MSG. He's not going to turn around and fight in January. Conor McGregor, not getting my hopes up. That's not even a possibility because he is back in the testing pool. But I believe Conor McGregor's earliest return would be February. So that's not going to happen anyway. Maybe we'll get lucky if Conor McGregor does return at the White House, which I think is a very real possibility. So that leaves us really with just Ilya Topuria. And I think that is going to be exactly who is going to headline this first event. Now, you look at the landscape of the UFC, who's the biggest star? You can make an argument that it is Ilya Topuria. But Ilya Topuria has said that he wants to return in December. Let's just push it back 1 month and have this man fight in January. We do not know the location. If y'all know, let me know. But UFC 324, kick off the new year, kick off the new deal. I mean, how do you not do Ilya Topuria? There's no sense in booking an Ilya Topuria versus, this is what it sounds like, the direction they're heading. Ilya Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. I don't want to see that, especially not in December. If you're going to make that matchup at all, which I hope you don't, why not push it back until January? because Ilya Topuria, one of the biggest stars in the sport, and Justin Gaethje, also one of the bigger stars in the sport, especially to the casual fans. People know Justin Gaethje as that guy who got slimed out by Max Holloway in what casuals will also say is the greatest fight of all time, man. Very one-sided fight, but it was a good fight. But Justin Gaethje versus Topuria, it's a possibility for January, but I have an even better possibility, an even better main event, and an even better co-main event to supplement this. And here it is, guys. Ilya Topuria versus Paddy Pimblet. I mean, how do you not make this matchup? Look, before you freak out and say Paddy has not earned it, I agree with you. If we could, in an ideal world, let's get Paddy in a fight. Get Paddy booked for a fight on UFC 320, UFC 321. Now, is he going to turn around for January? Probably not. That's not super likely unless he takes zero damage. But even if you don't want to go that route, I'm not mad. Listen, I'm not mad if Paddy skips the line. If we can do like Arman Sarukian versus Justin Gaethje in the meantime, let's have them booked for Abu Dhabi. I think that makes sense. But guys, the only reason I say this is because, listen, the UFC is looking for a money fight, especially to kick off the Paramount deal. You have Ilya Topuria, who's a superstar, Paddy Pimblet, who's on the verge of becoming a superstar. And this is a super fight. Has Paddy Pimblet necessarily earned this fight? Not at all. I'm going to be honest, not at all. But they have bad blood, for one. Two, like I said, the UFC does not want to miss an opportunity for Ilya Topuria versus Paddy Pimblet. The build-up's going to be sick. The fight itself, I mean, it seems very one-sided. We'll have to see. But everybody gets excited for this matchup. And the main reason I want to book this fight now rather than later is because Ilya Topuria versus Paddy Pimblet, like I said, is a super fight the UFC does not want to miss out on or leave on the table, because I believe Ilya Topuria would beat Paddy Pimblet, let's say in January, and Islam Makhachev, whether or not he beats Jack Della in November, I don't think it matters, because if Islam does beat Jack and Ilya beats Paddy, I think this perfectly lines up International Fight Week, Ilya Topuria versus Islam, whether that's for the welterweight title for Ilya trying to become a triple champ, or whether that's Islam coming back down to 155 to fight Ilya for a pound-for-pound number one matchup, potentially even a go-to-the-sport matchup. And if that matchup ends up happening and you get Ilya versus Islam, potentially in Islam's next fight after JDM, that just pushes back a fight with Paddy Pimblet. So I'm not mad if you want to get this fight out of the way. Go ahead and sell it. Go ahead and, push Paddy Pimblet to superstardom. Also elevate Ilya Topuria even more, especially with this new CBS and Paramount deal. Ilya versus Paddy does not make all the sense in the world on paper. But as a fan, I mean, are you really mad at this matchup? Are you mad at this buildup? I don't think so. And not only that, this is a rivalry in the UFC. We have not seen a good rivalry in quite some time. Is this a realistic UFC main event for 324? I really don't know. I don't know what Dana's going to do. I don't know what the UFC is going to do, because it seems like they've been trying to do Paddy versus Gaethje, and Gaethje keeps saying no. So there's a possibility the UFC says, okay, you don't want to fight Gaethje, or Gaethje doesn't want to fight Paddy. Sure. Then you're not getting the title shot because we're giving it to Paddy Pimblet, okay? It could be an excuse. But if they want to go the Gaethje route, which it kind of seems like they do, Justin Gaethje versus Ilya Topuria is not a fight I want to see and not a fight I look forward to, but it could sell very well for the first Paramount event. It could be all right, but if that does happen, this has to be the co-main event. Merab versus Petr Yan 2. Now, Merab does have a fight coming up, UFC 320, against Corey Sandhagen. I believe he's going to win the fight. I think it will be a tough matchup against Sandhagen because he, trains the specifics. He's a tough cookie, but I'm not picking against Merab right now. There's no reason to pick against Merab until he shows me something different, until he shows me he can slow down, until he shows me he's human. I'm not picking against him. Petr Yan looks like he's waiting for a title shot. He's earned it. I'm going to be honest, even though Merab's already 50-45'd him. But Merab, he's not a superstar. He does try to be a superstar. He still is one of the bigger names in the sport just because he's beat O'Malley twice. He's had the title for a little bit now. But him versus Yan is a perfect co-main event because you can't sell this as a main event. I'm just being real. I mean, the fans just aren't getting super excited for this. The hardcore fans are, but a casual fan is not tuning into Merab versus Yan 2. That's just the reality of it. But Merab and Ilya Topuria are good buddies. I'm sure Merab would not mind at all being the co-main event under his boy, Ilya Topuria. And again, I'm not building a whole entire card for this. You can have the rest of the card be absolute trash. If you have Ilya versus Paddy, Merab versus Yan 2, oh my gosh. Guys, I would love for this event to be in like it's not going to Spain, not yet. If it was in Spain, guys, that would be electric. You would just need Patty versus Ilya and nothing else on the card, and it will sell plenty, even though they're not doing pay-per-views anymore. But this is a banger. This is a banger co-main event, guys, to kick off the year, to kick off the new deal. It doesn't get much better than this. But that's my take on it. I think Ilya Topuria should, and I think he will headline UFC 324, the first Paramount CBS event of the new deal. I think there's no reason for him not to. There's no reason to rush him to December. Honestly, if we're talking about UFC 323 that's in Vegas, let's do Joshua Van versus Pantoja, maybe even Shevchenko versus Wei Lee or something. Guys, if they're going to build a stacked card for 324, just expect a stinker for 323, guys. We're getting Aaron Blanchfield versus Macy Barber headlining 323. But anyway, guys, that's my take on it. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the new deal. Let me know if you're excited. Let me know who you want to see headlining the first event of the year. And yes, this was another excuse to play Matchmaker, guys. Hit the like button down below. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. And I appreciate y'all for tuning in once again. And we out.